No.
Are we recording?
Yeah, you can do. Yeah, you can enter in however you want. So intro this however you want. Like you can totally screw me over and lose all of our listeners in the first 5 seconds.
I'm gonna drop that bomb.
You're listening to the mother.
Oh, all right. So you're listening to the Pastor with No Answers, and this is Joel Smith, and just wanted to say a couple things about, Joey, you technically owe me a lot because, West Virginia put that pounding on on Clemson.
Yes.
A couple years ago. Do you remember what the score was? Because I've forgotten.
I know that West Virginia scored 70.
Something like that, yeah. I think they just scored again. But,
right, totally. I think we've told the story before, but we have to tell it since you're sitting right here. So a lot of y'all that follow Emory, you know that their original bass player, who they nicknamed Chopper, his name was Joel Green. So Joel Green is someone that I met the same time I met Toby, him and I have been best friends forever. So we're talking 1997, I met Joel Green. And so from that point on, that is the Joel that is the most common theme in my head. So now I'd say there's 2 other Joels in my life that probably are kind of at the same level, you being one of them. But so
that's sweet, Joey.
So I'm doing your wedding, you and Emily's wedding, and I've gotten to know y'all a little bit through premarital counseling, but still, it's kind of like we haven't gone, super deep. We don't know each other that well. And so here I am with y'all's family. It's like the biggest day of your lives. And at the very end of the ceremony, when the pastor has the honor of introducing for the very first time Joel and Emily Smith, I actually said Joel and Emily Green.
My head snapped around so fast.
And I think you said, "What the heck?" or something like that.
Yeah, I probably dropped some choice language.
And I was devastated. Like, I'm sitting up there and I'm just like, I just want to go home. But I think I ended up going to y'all's bar immediately. I was just like, I just got to get away from everybody. I'm going to grab a beer. And my mind was put at such ease when family from both sides started coming up to me saying, "Man, that was awesome," because they thought I did it on purpose to get at you guys.
Yeah.
Because they knew y'all were jokesters and they probably thought, "Oh, Joey just got even." I'm like, what pastor does that as a joke? I did not do it as a joke.
Yeah, we've been married now for 8 years, and to this day, that still comes up. It's absolutely hysterical.
You realize that probably 7 out of 10 other families, like y'all probably, the Smith family makes up 30%. The other 70% would have probably been like, we need the money back that we paid for you. Seriously, they'd be like, you ruined this. You said the wrong last name.
Yeah, that's true.
And I was actually kind of worried. So do I owe you money?
We might have to settle up sometime eventually.
But I actually got in the car, and as bad as I felt, I had to have some sort of lightheartedness. So who did I text? Joel Green. Yeah. I said, you will not believe what I think I maybe left him a voicemail. When he got that, he just died. He just died.
Well, and what's funny is, like, you're usually such a jokester and pull things like that I would anticipate, especially like when you do a service at church or something like that. You always try and throw in a little bit of lightheartedness and some, just to kind of grease the skids or whatever. And your face, man, it was just, you turned white as a ghost.
It was horrible.
Yeah, it was so funny.
I think anybody can relate to that's a big mistake. That's not a little one. That's a big one. So before we get into our subject matter, what is so a question that I get a lot, and you're in a unique situation, I think, to kind of give your perspective. So you and I are at the same church. You and your wife are actually elders of our church. And I had to talk to you about public swearing once, and that's okay. But so I get this question all the time. It's like, how do people at Seacoast feel about your podcast? And I start the answer off by saying, I don't think there's as much overlap as you would think as far as people that go to the church and people that listen to the podcast.
Right.
But I'm not so sure if that's true anymore. And so all I've got really as far as an answer is there has been less enough conflict for my bosses and supervisors or whoever, the people that are running this church to not feel like there needs to be any major adjustments. And so what I have found, the people like you who do listen to Bad Christian Pastor with No Answers, like you listen regularly because it resonates with you. But the people that listen for the first time and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I cannot believe this trash."
They're like, "Holy shit!"
Right. I've had it happen once with a family at our campus, and it ended up working itself out, and everything's fine now. But it was like bomb goes off. Like I cannot believe our pastor.
As an elder, do I need to go talk to them? Is that?
No, it was years ago. So seriously, like what? I actually do not know. I've known you now for years, and I have no idea how did you first hear about Bad Christian. Like, how does someone like Joel, who I would assume is not like a podcastaholic that's just into all these podcasts, how did you find out about this podcast, and what was your reaction?
So, you're right. I hate technology. I don't have a Twitter account. I don't have, I think I might still have a MySpace account or something.
Yeah.
But I definitely am not a podcaster. But yeah, I don't know. I would say I probably checked out Bad Christians podcast first. Obviously because it came. Y'all started doing that one.
So how'd you even know about it? Did a friend tell you?
Because
I keep my worlds pretty separate.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to talk about it Seacoast. I don't put it on my personal Facebook account.
Right. I honestly want to say that either Brian Garvin or Ted Demas,
gotcha,
who was in our big small group and then the smaller small group and yada, yada, yada. But, we're all friends, and have been friends for years as well. And I remember we were talking about something, and, like, it had to have been Brian, because he was like, oh, yeah, on the Bad Christian podcast, they started talking about, like, I don't even remember what it was, some kind of theology or something, and I was just like, the Bad Christian what? And he was like, yeah, Joey and Toby and Matt do this podcast, and that was when Toby was still worship leader at the church.
Oh
yeah. So anyway, I just checked it out, and I was like, this is definitely out there.
Yeah,
definitely unconventional. Church style, if you will. But no, it just, you know me, I think cussing and sex and drugs and alcohol and all that kind of stuff doesn't bother me, So it was just
like sex out of marriage and
I'm totally listen. If it feels good, do it. That's been my philosophy. So
let's pray about that as a group of elders too.
Oh, you mean I'm not supposed to be leading people towards that?
Right. If Jesus feels good, go after Jesus.
Right.
But then that doesn't sound good either. That kind of sounds a little sketchy. So we'll have to work on that one. But you know what? What's interesting is I knew Joel and Emily were not super sensitive Christians. They were a little off the beaten path, which I feel like Seacoast has a lot of those people that are kind of unorthodox thinkers and all that. So giving you that's a complimentary thing. But with that in my mind, knowing about you guys, I have no idea how people are going to react to the podcast, because Joel could have responded like, well, gosh, I don't have a big deal. I don't have an issue with cussing, but gosh, that's really lame. These grown men that are supposed to be Christians, what are they doing it just for show? Or Joel saying, man, I've always grown up thinking that hell is a literal torturous chamber,
right?
And my own pastor is starting to have second thoughts about that. Like, I really do not know. There's very few times where I can be like, oh, they'll be totally fine with it, or they definitely hate it. Like, I just don't know. how people are going to react.
I mean, from a traditional like Protestant Christian standpoint, I think it definitely is it's like a culture shock. You know what I mean? So I would I would venture to guess that, and maybe not so much at Seacoast, just because we tend to draw the out of the box style seekers, but just in general walks of the Christian faith, I would say it's probably what 50-50 as to the reaction. But I'd be willing to bet that the people that don't care for this style of podcast from a Christian perspective probably aren't going to even say anything about it. I'd be willing to bet that most people that do not like your podcast or Bad Christian and are not going to listen to it again probably aren't actually going to bring it up anyway. Just because it's probably outside of their comfort zone. If it's outside of their comfort zone to listen to it, it's definitely outside of their comfort zone to bring it up.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying is I think the people that it's outside their comfort zone or that they just wouldn't like it. If they listened, I mean, there are certain people that you and I both know that my hypothesis is if they were in a podcast listening generation, I'm not sure if they would be at our church.
Right.
And I don't know how I feel about that. That does not make me proud. Like, that's not something I'm excited about. If anything, there's like some friction inside of me when it comes to that thought. And Priscilla gets sick and tired of it because I'll joke around and I'll say sometimes like how I'm a liability to Seacoast. And she says,
I think James Island Seacoast in general
is
a liability.
Our campus is a liability. But I mean, she makes a good point as far as just how, most Christians are asking the same sorts of questions and are thinking about it. It's just against the rules to express it, and so that is a very good thing. And then I think that we are covering some important territory, and all the respect in the world for the Surratts who started Seacoast and all that stuff. And in no way am I putting myself on that level, when it comes to ministry and all that. But I do feel like it doesn't hurt Seacoast's name.
No,
that they're a church that allows this.
Yeah.
It certainly doesn't hurt.
I would agree with that, and I would say amongst a certain group, it probably gives them some credibility too.
Yeah.
That they've not shut this down.
Yeah, for sure. Which my theory on that, we're going to have Pastor Greg on Bad Christian in December. I'm going to ask him about my theory. So, and I'm actually not going to bring it up. All right, so I just had a conversation with Jesse Smith, the former front guy, played drums and huge part of Zayo for years and years and years, fellow West Virginian. But the reason why I bring that up is that episode is basically going to be called Mental Illness with Jesse Smith, and my goal is maybe once every 3 months talk to someone about mental illness and just have an open dialogue. My question to you is, do you see what you go through with anger as a mental illness?
That's a pretty loaded question, and the reason I say that is because historically, in my mind, probably if you would have asked me that question 2 years ago, I would have probably said, no. Very quickly, I would have said no. Anger is just a part of life, and everybody gets angry. Jesus got angry when he tossed the tables in the temple and blah 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 blah. I think that still is true to an extent because I think anger is a natural emotion that everybody deals with.
Yeah. I
think, and I'm no PhD or anything, but I would say just based on the experiences that I've had and the things that Emily and I have had to deal with my anger issues, that I think you could probably borderline argue that similar to types of depression or any other mental, issues that it could fall in that category.
Yeah, totally. I mean, so with you reached out to me. Gosh, I don't know if we met face to face or if you called me or if you text, said, "Hey, let's hang out." And basically, you found yourself at a place in life where you felt like you needed to reach out to get help for anger. And so you reached out to me, you reached out to a couple other close friends of yours. Where were you in life, and why? What was the catalyst that made you realize, oh shit, I need to reach out because this is getting bad?
Well, the specific instance that I reached out to you, I mean, the reality of it is I obliterated a door, at our house. I mean, I'm not
kind of congratulations. Like, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool in some circles, I guess. But,
in caveman circles.
Right, exactly. In caveman circles, when you find a mate and you just knock her out and drag her. Yeah.
Door. Oh, good job.
Yeah, I mean,
So you obliterated a door. What do you mean? You took a hammer to a door?
No,
kicked it, or?
Yeah, I mean, the story goes is that it was like 11 o'clock at night or something like that, maybe even 10 o'clock at night, and we'd Emily and I had put Hayden, our youngest child, to bed. She was like a year old at the time, and she just throughout the first year just never slept. I mean, it was very just trying on us in general.
Mm-hmm.
And it just came to a point where that, amongst other things, had built up inside, and she just started screaming in the middle of the night, and I'd already gone in there like 3 or 4 times, and Emily was just kind of in a depressed state as well during that period, and it was just a lot of pressure, and I just exploded. And after I put her back down and closed her door, I stood and looked at our door and just slammed it, and then punched my fist through it, and then kicked it, and then basically at that point I lost complete control and basically went through the door. I was just slamming it and punching it, and I mean it was bad news.
Yeah.
I mean, it really was. It was frightening.
When you were at the other end of that fit of rage, is that where?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you make eye contact with Emily? Like,
oh yeah, yeah. It was like that happened within a matter of probably 10 to 15 seconds, I would say. At the end of it, I immediately came out of my blackout, if you will, and knew exactly what had happened, and thought to myself, holy shit, what did I just do? And my eyes were wide. Emily had already jumped out of bed, and we made eye contact, and she was like, get the out of this house.
Yeah.
Get out. I mean, she just, and I'm like, I've immediately calmed down to I didn't react to her. I didn't start yelling back at her like you would maybe see in a movie when a husband and wife yell at each other or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, she just started yelling and get out of the house, blah, blah, blah. And I just was like, okay, you're right.
Right.
I have royally screwed the pooch on this. I'm
try to argue that way.
Exactly.
I'm not leaving. What are you talking about? What did I do?
Yeah, I don't understand. No, I mean,
you're overreacting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I left.
Did you spend the night somewhere else?
No, I came back. I did after about probably an hour, maybe 2 hours. I went outside and cooled off because I blood pressure was through the roof. I was hot. I was shaking. I was so scared and just completely.
Was it an out of body experience? I mean, like when you came back to, were you like, I don't even know how that happened?
I wasn't beside myself watching myself do it.
Right.
By out of body, but I was definitely not in control of myself.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. So this is I always have a favorite question out of my list of questions that I don't know if I'm going to get to all of them. This is my favorite because I really am curious. Do you think that there are people in jail that are just as normal as Joel? And what I mean by that is you're a middle class citizen that makes a good income, takes care of your family. You're not a drug abuser You're a decent husband, a decent father. You're a regular dude, but you're in jail for the rest of your life because you lost it and accidentally killed your wife, or on purpose killed. You know what I'm saying? Like did something to where I lost control. I don't know how I did that, and now I've got to suffer the consequences. Like, do you think there are people just as normal as you that are in jail for making a big mistake?
So I think that is absolutely possible, because it's very easy for somebody to look at me and say, "Well, Joel, what if that door was your kid,
mm-hmm.
or what if that door was your wife?" So yes, to answer your question simply, I think it is very possible for someone to just completely lose it and do that. However, with that being said, I will defend myself a little bit, and probably people in my situation, to where I have always struggled with anger, and it has, on a handful of occasions, turned violent, but it's always been towards inanimate objects.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't even know, like, I don't know if that holds any weight or not. Does that make sense? Like, because Emily and I have had this conversation several times, to where obviously our concern is that I clearly have an anger issue. It's a very unique one in the sense that it can go months to even years without rearing its ugly head, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
But the fear is that because it's so random and somewhat uncontrollable, and there's no like tells, or there's no build up.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess there is a build up, but there's not a long build up.
Right.
That, the fear is that, I'm confident that I would never lay a hand on my kids or my wife, but you never really know.
Yeah, totally.
You really don't.
Now, so for our listeners that are because I can, we haven't given them a whole lot of context. We've given them one situation, but why wouldn't this just be something that our listeners hear as, you know what, that is extreme, but everyone has their moments and everyone has their bizarre moments. Joel has an anger problem. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what's the context of this? Like, do you have those sorts of things happen all the time, but not to that degree, but you do lose your cool? Like, why do you have an anger problem?
Yeah, I mean, so like, it's not
like you have a beat the shit out of a door problem, but
yeah, clearly me and doors don't get along. Yeah. I mean, I acknowledge the fact that I am a little hot tempered. It's not unusual for me to yell at one of my kids for doing something silly. It's not unusual,
which is normal for parents.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I guess in my situation though is that I don't tend to say, okay, Harper, I've told you one time to, sit at the table. Or, okay, Harper, I've told you for the third time now to hurry up and put your shoes on. We're going to be late. Or whatever. It's usually from, hey, Harper, can you put your shoes on? We're going to be late for school. To 15 seconds later, she's still dilly-dallying, playing with the cat or whatever. And it's like, Harper, get your damn shoes on. We're going to be late or something.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And maybe that is normal.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not sitting around, spying on other people's family dynamics, but, but I mean, I do acknowledge the fact that I have a tendency to go loud and forceful, probably faster than your average person.
Yeah. So let's go through this a little bit. So you reach out to a couple of friends, including myself. What were the changes that you made? And like, how long ago was that episode? What did you do then? And where are you now? Have you had any meltdowns similar to that? Do you feel like you've made a lot of progress? Did you get counseling? Did you take medication and like what? Let's fast forward through some years and tell me what's up.
Yeah, so that happened in I think January of this year. So January of 2017. So it's been almost a year,
Mm-hmm.
coming up close on a year since nothing like that has ever happened again. I've raised my voice a few times here and there, but kind of going backwards in time, I guess. At that time, yeah, I called some friends. The conversation went very quickly to, are the kids okay? Is Emily okay? Do I need to come pick you up? Do you need to have, y'all need to be apart for a night to, then talking to you about it. And then obviously Emily and I came and had some counseling with you and Priscilla about it. I've never gone to a professional about it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously you're a professional, right?
Not a professional counselor, but I try to make myself seem like it.
You did a good job.
Thanks.
But no, I've never gone to seek professional like PhD psychotic counseling or however that goes. But yeah, I mean before that though, I mean gosh, so Hayden was a year old when that happened. That was about a year ago. Prior to that, Emily wasn't even pregnant with Hayden, and Harper was like a year and a half or two, and she's 5.5 now. So, what is that? 3.5, almost 4 years prior was the last time it happened. So, the time when it happened before that.
Wait, so you lost me. What happened this past January?
So, the January was the door incident.
Okay. And that's what led you to come to you and talk. So what did you just say about 4.5 years ago?
So the last like rage episode was 3.5, 4 years.
I thought you just said it was this January.
Are you trying to confuse me?
No, I'm confused. So January of 2017. Like I thought all of this was way longer ago for some reason.
No, man. It's been, yeah.
Interesting.
All right. Yeah, so January of 17 was the door incident.
Okay.
Which is when I reached out to you and Priscilla and Emily and I sat down with you guys, had some counseling, stuff like that. Prior to that was probably sometime in 2014.
Gotcha. Okay.
So,
prior to that, and what did you do
so
in 2014?
Prior to that,
a window.
That was
a wall, TV.
That was a wall. Yeah, that was a wall. So prior to that, just to kind of further elaborate on the anger issues, just and I'm not gonna even try and give you a timeline, but basically back like 2014 era and prior to that, I kicked a door, put a hole in it. I punched a hole in a wall because I got frustrated with Harper when she was learning to feed herself. So prior to that time, I was in an apartment in college. My roommate was a slob, and I had told him several times to empty the trash and quit letting it pile up, to where you put a cup on top and then it all falls out on the ground.
Yeah.
Punched a hole through a wall in that apartment. Prior to that was back in it was like 05 or 06 when I was in college, and I think West Virginia was in the Sweet 16, or maybe it was the Big East tournament. I can't remember, but we were playing Georgetown, and it was a buzzer beater 3-point shot to win the game, and it was Georgetown shooting the ball. We were up by 3 points. Or no, we were up by 2 points. So the 3-pointer won the game, but it was a goaltending call that wasn't called. And I got so mad I went outside and dented my car door. I mean, so it's just, I don't know. I laugh about it, but at the same time I take it seriously because I clearly have a history.
See, and I wonder what a professional counselor would say. Honestly, I wonder how unique that is, because when I think of people with anger problems, I'm thinking once every couple of days they lose their cool and it's bad.
Yeah.
You seem to have really bad episodes spread out years.
Right. Yep.
But I think you did the right thing by taking it serious, because it's like, I just destroyed a door. But what I'm curious about is, since January of 2017, when the door got destroyed, what have you done differently, or what do you have in place that lessens the chances of that happening again? Because we're talking, every few years, Joel loses it. So why are you better off now with the chances being lower?
So when I was in college and then early on in Emily and I's marriage, it was happening more frequently.
Mm-hmm.
The things I just kind of spun off were happening every couple of months and not every couple of years. And I would say that just raising my voice and just being frustrated about things in general probably was also happening more frequently.
Yeah.
More on a regular basis. When we had kids 5 years ago, and it's a lot different when you're in college and you have an anger issue and nobody really cares about it.
Yeah.
To when you're married and you have kids and you have an anger issue, because then other people are directly affected.
Yeah.
And I think that's when I really started taking it seriously, to the point where I called you about it, I called some other friends about it, and we came up the game plan that we came up with was that, okay, whenever it got to the point where whenever you're alone with your kid, if Emily's out to the store or if she's working and you're home watching the kid or whatever, text us, let us know. Not only so we can just kind of shoot a quick prayer for you,
mm-hmm.
to be mindful of it, but also that kind of acknowledged me to say, okay, there's some guys that are going to give me shit.
Mm-hmm.
You're
accountable
for I'm being accountable. And so that was really the first step when it started affecting Emily and Harper about 5 years ago. And that was kind of a real big step, as simple as that sounds. I mean, like, the way I look at it is, dudes don't want to be embarrassed, period. Yeah. And they definitely don't want to be embarrassed in front of other dudes.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, for me, the embarrassment would have been worse than putting my hand through a door, or whatever. So it was like, I mean, you guys sent me text messages like, well, if you do something stupid again, you gotta take a picture of it and send it to us,
right.
Or I mean, so it was definitely loving accountability, mm-hmm. but with that manly twist to where we're going to make sure that you don't forget about this crap that you're doing.
Right.
So that really helped. I think the other thing that then grew into was just starting to talk to people about it. Like I said, I'd always had anger issues, but it was just like, well, I'll deal with it. This is not a big deal. I'm in college, it's not, it's me.
Yeah.
It's my problem. I'll deal with it. And I think after those episodes when I was first married, and reached out to you guys, and we kind of did the text message accountability thing, that became talking about it at small group, and having friends of friends reach out to me and say, hey man, so and so told me about some of the stuff you've been through and going through. I'm going through the same thing. Can we grab a beer and talk about it?
Yeah.
I mean, so I really just started kind of wearing my issues, front and center.
Yeah.
And I really think that
in itself
probably helped out a lot.
Yeah, just because I think these sorts of things thrive in secret.
Oh yeah,
they really do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
even if it's a secret between, like, it's one thing for you and Emily to know, because y'all, every single part of your lives are connected. So it's almost like she's not an outsider that knows. She's part of you.
Yeah,
absolutely. And so that's interesting. With let's see. Oh, I know what I was going to ask is, what do you think would happen in a situation where you are in the middle of your 15 seconds of rage? And, well, first, would you have the potential of doing something like that in front of other people besides Emily? Like, do you think you have the capacity for something to get you to the point where you do that in public?
Probably not, only because I haven't yet.
Gotcha.
And I mean, I would just say,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just historically, it's never happened in front of more than just one person, and that one person has either been just me and one of my kids at the house,
Yeah.
or me and Emily at the house, or me and like a roommate in college.
Yeah.
I mean, so yeah, in a group setting, like let's say we were hanging out, watching MMA or something, and there were a bunch of dudes there just hanging out, playing poker or whatever, and having a good old time. And one of the guys there was just like somebody I didn't really like, and just was pressing my buttons and all. I don't think I would, just because I don't know, just because it's maybe because it's public, or
Right.
I don't know. I can't. I don't know why, but again, I just from a track record standpoint, I would say no.
Yeah. So this may be a tough question. Why I asked that is I wanted to know what do you think you would have done in your 15-second rage if someone tried to intervene and calm you down. So my question is, what do you think would have happened if Emily would have gotten up to try to calm you down? Like,
yeah,
because you obviously didn't go after her,
right?
So you weren't that crazy to like try to take it out on another human being. But what if she tried to stop you? Do you think that would have been like? Seems like you lost a sense of reality for a second. Right. So could that have been trouble?
Probably.
Yeah.
Only because I cannot remember those 10 or 15 seconds. I really can't.
Yeah.
So, and that's what really scares me.
Yeah.
Is that whether it's Emily or you or anybody else, I don't trust myself to say, "Oh yeah, I'm oh no, my brain would click back on immediately once someone tried to physically grab me or push me out of the way or whatever." I don't know.
Yeah. Gosh, I just thought of another good question.
Do it, man.
If you, let's say you do lose your cool. Let's say you're in public, so this is the first. Someone steps in, and you just go medieval on them, and they actually die. Do you think that you could plead insanity? Like,
oh gosh,
because I mean, you just said you don't remember those 15 seconds. Like, do you think you could say, "Look, I need to accept consequences for my actions, but as an insane person, because those 15 seconds, I did not know what I was doing to that person as I was killing him."
Man, your brain, you go to some weird places, don't you?
You got to admit, man, that's a good question.
It is a good question. I don't know. I don't. I mean, so yeah. I mean, all right. So, from.
I mean, it's hard to admit if you're insane.
Right. Yeah. I mean, okay. So, break that question down even further. Do I feel like I'm insane? No.
Right.
Do I have a very short split second of a insane decision to where I lose control? Sure.
Yeah.
But I don't consider that insane.
Yeah.
So from a and please stop recording. But anyway, from a legal standpoint, would I play that card in the court system?
Yeah.
To be able to see my friends and family again eventually?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, and I guarantee you that there are some good lawyers and good psychologists out there that would probably back up that theory.
Yeah, you're totally screwed now, though.
Because I know,
if you try I'll plead insanity.
Yeah, so Jared's going to edit this out, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Gosh, that's interesting because, I mean, people like if you read the right portions of, I mean, I wouldn't even say out of context. If you read passages of the book that I wrote, it's insanity. Like people can read it and be like, "That's not sound mind. That's insane." And I think I would say the same thing that you said is I don't think I'm insane, but I definitely can vouch for it seems like temporary insanity.
Yeah.
Mine's not going to lead to accidentally killing someone though. Where yours
mine could, I guess. In theory, mine could.
You have road rage?
No, not really.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Man, that's cool. So just put Joel behind a wheel and he's
I'm
good.
I'm good to go.
Nice, nice. How is Emily with all of this? Like, does she feel whatever level of confidence that you have at this stage of all of this? Is she at the same place, or is she a little more nervous?
In general, she's more nervous.
Yeah.
And I think that's to be expected.
Yeah.
I feel like whenever I have these episodes, she definitely goes to the extreme of like, you know, do I take the kids and move out for a couple days? Do I, do like you need to do this, this, and this?
Yeah.
We talk about it very heavily. But I would say, like right now, today, 10 months, 10 months separated from my last episode, she would probably say, yeah, I'm concerned, but he's doing the right things. You know what I mean? She'd be supportive of it, but I think and that's one thing that I have a hard time with, but it's completely reasonable. Is that I think in the back of her mind, she's never going to be able to just be 100% comfortable with this.
Yeah.
But
that's fair.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, it is.
I mean, it's the same sort of thing, once again, with my depression is I don't think Priscilla can ever be at complete ease when I come home in the late afternoon or night. She's like, I hope he's fine. And nowadays I think it's becoming a little more commonplace for me to come home and I'm good to go. But I mean, there's a season of time where it was just playing with dice.
Yeah.
I mean, you never know what kind of Joey you're going to get. And I hate saying that, but that was her reality for years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, cool, man. This has been pretty cool.
It's been all right.
Yeah. Yeah. With like, what would you say if someone else found themselves in your situation, like just do what Joel did, or do you think every person's a little bit different?
I think everybody is a little bit different. So I think my blueprint, so to speak, my approach is not the blueprint, but I definitely think that the number one thing I will say is that regardless of your situation and how extreme or non-extreme it is, or whether it's like me, or it's just totally random and it's few and far between, or whether it's kind of a more of a daily or weekly kind of thing, is just reach out.
Yeah.
Like don't do what I did when I was younger and in college and just try and deal with it yourself. And
Right.
I think, that's easy to say, and really that's, a piece of advice for really anything, whether it's, drinking or depression or anger or whatever, fill in the blank. But I can't stress enough how much you and some of our other friends have helped me through this to where I feel very strongly in my confidence with being able to deal with this and live with it. I mean, that's the reality of it, is I'm having to live with it and just deal with it. But I wouldn't be able to do that without some of the friendships I've made and some of the accountability I've had.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing. Thanks for being open and honest. And is it too much to ask? Would she be offended if I said, Emily, I know that you're mad and you're uncomfortable? now I feel bad saying this because she's going to listen to this, but can you hit record on your phone? Because I really want to see a door be destroyed. That's probably a horrible, horrible thing. Now, I know this is serious, and obviously to the point where you felt like, man, I gotta reach out. And that right there, it's like, man, something clicked in your head to where you're just like, this is not good.
Yeah.
Like, I've got to
definitely
figure something else out. So, Emily, if you're listening, sorry for the insensitivity. I know that is very hard. And I was even thinking too, like, just as your girls grow older, you're going to have to adjust to different stages of their lives.
Totally.
Like, for example, you're never going to hit Harper, but you may embarrass the hell out of her in front of a boyfriend, like yelling at him and maybe punch his car, and she's just like, Dad, I can never forgive you. You know what I'm saying? I mean, just like there's situations you're going to have to adjust to different seasons of life.
I know. It's going to be fun. Having two girls in the house along with a wife, and yeah.
So let's, I tell you what, this episode will always be on the record for you to refer your girls' boyfriends to.
Yeah.
Hey, let you listen to something real quick.
Yeah. You want to know what I'm really like?
You're on some shaky ground here.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is that, I mean, we've talked about it 100 times over, is that amongst all of our friends, at our church and in our kind of our group, there's going to be those awkward moments of some friend's daughter is going to be dating some other friend's son, and I mean, Joey, I hate to break it to you, but if I'm going to bury one of your sons in my backyard, then you'll understand, right? I mean,
no, I'd probably have to. I'd have to take something. Your life, somebody. I mean, eye for an eye. No, what's crazy is like we, as guys, I think we almost fantasize about this, like
how cool it would be.
Well, yeah, I love the thought of Rosa going out with someone, and I ask you to go to the restaurant and just go up to him and say, hey, you know what? Joey's got better things to do than to mess with this. Like, he's dealing with some other, like, just make me sound like I'm this top of the totem pole crime behind mafia. Like he's got, he's like, so he sent me to tell you that if you touch her, lay a hand on her, do anything bad to her, you will be killed.
Yeah.
And you don't even need to know my name, but I'm watching you or just mess with somebody like that.
Well, my tactic, I mean, and this is totally cliche, but I'm going to do it, is I'm going to have all of my guns laid out on the coffee table, and I'm going to be cleaning them as the first boyfriend comes up to pick up my daughter.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna make sure that she's taking her time and getting ready and stuff, so we can have a nice little chat. You can understand what I'm all about. Maybe I'll just tell them, hey, there's this podcast from back in 2017 you should check out.